Bree, this is our new tree. We just got this tree a few days ago. It's a harlequin maple, and it was planted because of Arbor Day, and the local hydro company came and actually put the plant in for us, put the tree in, which is a lot of work to dig a hole. This ground is very hard because kids run over it all the time. So they dug a hole. I saw they put some nice rich soil that they had brought with them into the hole. And I brought some old wood chips to just mulch it for the next week until the new wood chips arrive. And then on Landscape Day on the 14th, all the parents will come and we'll put lots of fresh wood chips. And these little bushes, this one here is a spirea. This is, I think, a little boxwood. Those shrubs just make it look lovely and attractive. So thank you very much for the parents that helped us with this one for Arbor Day. That's May of 2016 this tree was planted. And I will bring my children out and ask them to put their hand around the tree and see how thick the stem is, how wide the stem is. And for a kindergarten child, which is what I teach, they can just get their fingers to touch. And I'm trying to encourage them every year, come back to this yard and measure how big that tree is. And Ali, I'm really proud of this tree. We planted this tree last year. My kindergarten kids helped. I had a couple of boys from an older grade who helped dig the hole prior to us coming out and planting the tree. And this is another one where I get them to measure how big around it is. This is a flaming maple. It's got really wonderful fall color, but it's also a sugar maple. So if it ever grew big enough, you could tap it for syrup. And we come and water this every couple of days. These stakes and the cables are to hold the tree up. This is really important when you first plant a tree for at least 3 or 4 years, because they really can't handle strong winds until they've strongly rooted. And us watering it every week or every couple of days really helps it root. So that's another beautiful tree. In June, I took pictures last year of all my kindergarten students standing beside the tree, and I'm encouraging them to come back. Come back in grade 1, come back in grade 5. Maybe you move to a different school. Come back when you're in grade 8 and look at the tree, see how big it is. These trees are very precious. We need to look after them. If you could even, I don't know if you can bring the camera around here. Unfortunately, someone has already picked at the bark with their fingernail over here. Come right around to this side. That's very harmful on a tree. If you pick at it, it's kind of like when you get a scratch and you bleed. It's hard on a tree to have the bark picked out like that. Okay, so really, you can touch trees, you can hug them. I always find certain trees I have to come up and just touch them and say thank you for being there, thank you for growing. This tree is probably 15 years old. That's why they're so expensive, and that's why it's fairly strong. So we always have to take really good care of our trees. Okay, Aris, you asked me about this naturalized garden. I'd like to tell you about this garden. So this garden we've been putting in for 2 years now. We were given a site plan of the schoolyard and told that we could spend $40,000 and have somebody bring in, or a landscape company bringing all these wonderful trees and shrubs. The school does not have $40,000 to spend on this. I have a plot of land at Muskoka. I've got 15 acres of forest, and I have been slowly digging up the bushes and trees from my property at Muskoka and bringing them here. They're very little, but they don't cost us anything. All we have to do is take really good care of them. So I'm going to point to them and tell you about them. This is red osier dogwood. It's a little shrub. It's going to spread way out. These are hemlocks, and I planted the hemlocks in a grove. There's 4 of them in a little cluster, because if you're ever up in the forest, you'll notice that hemlocks do grow in groves. This is probably about my favorite tree, just the way they grow tall and they drape and they kind of, the little fronds fall over. More of the red osier dogwood. White pine, this is from my forest, so who knows, this could be related to my special tree, the big white pine I was telling you about. Could be a descendant of it. This is a little elm that actually has come from my yard in Barrie. It was a weed I dug out of a flower bed. I looked after it at home for a couple of years. This elm is probably about 5 years old now. Over here is a cedar. Last year I worked with Verna Zisk. She was my DECE in kindergarten. And the year prior to that I worked with her. She dug this out of her property. In Angus, it's over behind No Frills. And she has lots of cedars. I love cedars. So we planted that one. This one here is a little spruce, which is like a Christmas tree. This too is from my property in Muskoka. Sadly, it has been vandalized a couple of times. Someone has broken the top. It's supposed to look like a Christmas tree. It doesn't. Someone's broken the top. But this tree is determined to grow. And the other cool thing is this little maple that has sprouted beside it. And I'm trying to look after both of these. I will put new wood chips down very soon. I'll put fresh compost around them. And that's the extent of our garden so far. But at home, I have another 5 or 6 trees and shrubs that I'm going to bring. And we'll just spread this garden around, spread more wood chips. And it's going to get nicer and nicer as the trees grow taller. These orange stakes are just to tell kids don't come in at recess. Ultimately, in years to come, when these trees are thick and strong, we can take those stakes away, and I would love kids to play in here. Right now, I'm just encouraging teachers, bring your children in, and also I encourage the children to come and water them with me. You might see that in a minute. I'm going to bring some water out, and as the kindergartens come out for recess, they help me water all these little trees. So it's all about stewardship. It's about teaching children to take care of them. It's teaching children that this little thing that looks like nothing is actually a tree that's about 5 or 6 years old. It has little buds on it. And if you just sit there and break, you're actually breaking a branch that ultimately could be as big as that tree trunk there, right? This particular branch in 20 years' time will be that thick around if it's looked after, okay? If we look after all these things.
So tell me about your favorite tree.
My favorite tree is this giant pine that's on my property at Muskoka. I bought 15 acres there about 15 years ago, and a tornado had gone through 10 years before that. So in the area that was hit by the tornado, the back of my property, there were a bunch of trees that were topped off at about 20 feet. Now this one somehow survived. Most of them died. This one survived and it sprouted up. It just had a few little sprouts on it 15 years ago. Every year it's got bigger. The tree is this much around, and it's almost like a pilgrimage to me to walk to that tree because it's so special. It survived the tornado. It's growing now, and I just love the symbol of a tree.
Why do you think it's important for us to have the garden?
Because it helps us smell things, breathe oxygen, and all the plants need 3 things: sunlight, air, and water.
Why is it important for us to have our garden and trees?
Because trees make oxygen, and the smell of flowers make people happy.
So what are some ways to respect the garden?
Don't pick the bark. Don't hang out the trees. Don't step on the flowers.
Can we respect the trees or plants?
Don't step on them or pull off bark or hang on them.
As an intermediate student, why do you think that it's important to have the plant life that we have here?
I think it's important to have the plant life here because it brightens up just our brick school that's just plain and simple, and it makes the outside of our school like colorful and have lots of detail into it.
What impact does the garden have on the future?
The impact that the garden has on the future is like if we don't plant the plants that we have today, then that means there will be no future.
See, if we don't fuel the next generation, there won't be one. And in order for us to fuel the next generation, we need plants so that we can breathe oxygen.
So why do you guys think it's important to garden at our school?
Why do you think it's important, Kyle? Because it looks a lot prettier. I think it's important too because it's not just your school, it's your community as a whole. And you should always take pride in where you live and where you go to school. This is where you spend a big portion of your day, so taking pride in how it looks is very important.
Why do you guys spend your weekends and afternoons gardening at our school?
Well, our family really likes gardening. We do a lot of gardening at home, and we actually like coming over here because sometimes we can't contribute to the school in other ways, so this is something that we know how to do, and it's our way of contributing to the school community.